Okay, that's with the end.
Okay, we want to welcome everybody to the PTR meeting for November. I think to start the meeting, as far as PTR goes, the Parks, Trails, Recreation Committee, we want to say how excited we are to work with Councilman Kinnison and Councilwoman Lunt and our new mayor-elect Winder. We look forward to working with them, and we are grateful for their service that they're extending to the city. Do we have any public comment tonight? I don't think we did.
Excuse me, I saw the election results, but I didn't know which, so there were 2 open council seats.
Yes,
And you realize.
I made it back into one of them, yeah, and Janet Luntz
And
in
so
the other one.
who is going out?
Paul MacArthur didn't run, so he's out.
Okay.
And this all starts January 11th. So, yeah.
I just wanted to review what the committee had sent to Councilman Kinnison for the city council meeting on the 26th of October. So we can get these things into the minutes. That PTR has submitted, as requested, the 2 recommendations. One was on Deep Forest Circle parking, and the other one was on the recommendation for non-motorized use of Switchback Trail. And it was also included at the bottom of that recommendation that it be all non-paved trails, which included Summit Creek, which we all knew about. But I wanted to get those in the minutes so that the community can see what our recommendation was and why it was the way it was for parking and for the use of the trail. Dark Sky is progressing slowly. I got something from Wayne Franzen a while back on the general plan. Doral, I don't know if you got that as well. It had to do with state mandates for what's to be included in the general plan. And one of those said that the city cannot limit lighting or noise. And I asked Carrie to find out more what that meant. Was it just in the general plan? Or was this, do ordinances trump general plan? And she said ordinances trump general plan. So I'm waiting to hear back from her on what her report was with the state.
So she's checking into the state to see what.
Yeah, I asked her specifically about two different codes that Wayne sent me, but they all had to do with the general plan. And coming up for 2022, I think is when we submit our new general plan for the city.
The state legislature has been clamping down and passing you can't hear me? It's on.
Yeah. Here, you can have that.
All right, state legislature's taken a more active role of limiting what what cities can do and requiring like not CCNRs, but size restrictions, size of homes, exterior materials. Cities in the past have kind of done that. And the state's coming down on cities, and they did some legislation this spring, but I can't remember all of it. This is Rachel. They're starting to tie the hands of the city as far as what they can and can't do now. Developers, for instance, like Summit Creek, or these developers can create CCNRs that can be more restrictive as they develop the projects, but the state is starting to limit what the cities can and can't do and say. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
well, the way I read what the planning commissioner sent me was it had to do with the general plan. And I didn't know how that would affect dark sky moving forward and us helping to create a more condensed version of the ordinance. And as I said
Which
to
is what we were
Carrie,
trying to do.
yeah, this is, you know, a 2-year process, this dark sky application. And it's going to involve an awful lot of work. And if we're not going to be able to do it,
So let's get
why
the
do the
answers
work?
now and then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's supposed to get back to me on that. So that's kind of where we are on dark sky. Doral, while we've got you here, this goes back a ways, and I had as an open item that the city council and planning look at ordinance 5.1, 5B3, 5.2, 1A and B, and had to do with curfew and the park hours being consistent. I think our park hours now are through 11 p.m. and the noise ordinance runs through 10:30 p.m. Is that something that we would request Mayor Prey to put on the agenda for December? Is that how that would work?
Yeah, I would recommend that. Or, and copy Wayne. They would look at it first, but I agree with you. I think they ought to be consistent.
Okay.
Can I bring something to your attention? Because
Yep.
I think this needs to be dealt with sooner than later. Greg and I are aware of this. Brad's.
Yeah.
So Brad Lunt, everybody know where he lives on the corner there across from the park, one that's putting in the swimming pool. Okay, so he lives across from the park. So we're part of the same district, Greg and I with him. So we all got this. I'm going to condense it. Being right across from the park. Anyway, we have a new baby, which often means getting up multiple times at night, several nights throughout the summer. There's people at the park anywhere from 12 to 4 a.m., which has been my observation. I am shocked at how often that park's used, having moved there. Anyway, wondering about the 11 o'clock. And then he went on to say that Sunday morning at 4 a.m., so this is the Halloween carryover from Saturday night. Last night, Saturday night, I got up at 3 a.m. and there were people watching a movie and still there at 4 a.m. in the park. He said, I'm not one to call the sheriff or go out and snap at them. Anyway, he was just looking for some guidance from us on what to do. We encouraged him, he should have called the sheriff. But that's what's going on at their door. So I think you guys need to figure out whether it's 10:30 or 11. I don't care which one it is. I think the council needs to do it, and then let's get it out there, let's get it posted, and then let's enforce it.
Is it posted?
I don't think it is.
Well, some of the stuff says 10:30, some of it says 11. We for a year now,
Yeah.
we've had this discussion.
But is
Pick
there-
one of them, I don't care which one.
I don't think there's a sign at the
No,
park, is there?
but let's get it decided,
Yeah.
then we can get it posted,
get a
then we can
sign.
enforce.
Yeah,
Because for those of us that live up there by it, that park is used 24/7, 365 days of the year.
In prior discussion, Wendy Prey mentioned that in summer, that it barely gets dark until about 10 o'clock. And so by the time you clean up, 10 o'clock seemed kind of early, 10:30 maybe better, 11 o'clock, but I agree. Let's decide a time and then stick to it.
Yeah,
And make sure.
10:30 or
it's
11 until what, 6 in the morning, whatever it is, because it is used 24/7, 365 days of the year. It is used all winter long, all night long. Yes. Not necessarily every single night, but many nights. If you go, Greg and I see this because of where we're at. Now that the leaves have fallen off, and I'm actually a street up above the park, and I'm 40 feet above the park, but I'm amazed at the time during the night I get lights hitting my house.
is it noisy too, or?
It
no?
is at times.
Okay.
It is at times.
So lights from their cars?
I have no idea how the lights are getting up to my house from where they're at.
And what would you be doing in the winter at 11 o'clock? Well, okay.
I would prefer not to say because this is public and recorded, but use your imagination.
Well, it's the same thing with any public facility in the city. I mean, the trail is the same way. Majority of the people in the city don't know that there's people that go up there at
All
night,
night long.
all night long. And it's an issue that needs to be addressed for
They're-
safety and,
They're beautiful views. It's easily accessible.
Yep.
It could very easily become a lover's lane. And that's what we wanted to.
I'm
Yeah.
fairly confident there's at least that going on.
Yeah.
Well, Brett's told us that's what's going on too. He's
Back
gone
in-
out there and,
Back in June, didn't we have an incident where there were some people out there roasting marshmallows or had a fire?
We were paged out to a fire call
Yeah.
and responded. And law enforcement came up. So you had, if I remember correctly, I think there were 5 kids. None of them were locals. They were
Yeah.
from Salem. All over 18, which made it fun for the sheriff.
so when you made the call, did you say fire?
We were paged out for a fire in the park as a fire department. We responded as such. Even though I drove past it going down to the station, I knew what it was.
Okay,
So as we got here and we're loading and going, I said, just so you're aware, this is what it is. So we don't have to race 100 miles an hour.
About 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, 8:39-ish.
What
It
were
was
they
dark.
burning in
They had a metal
Oh.
trough
with wood?
with wood and roasted marshmallows. And it was 5 kids.
That was more a fire issue than.
Not
than
knowing.
how-
It's just we had a zero tolerance for
Right,
wood fires.
right.
And it was a wood fire, yeah.
Did they issue tickets?
He was supposedly issuing, because some of the kids says you can call our parents, and as he got done, he says, you're all over 18, I'm not calling anybody's parents. But I need your IDs, and then at some point,
Oh,
one of them ended up turning into a medical, but we ended up
Huh.
dealing with, well, that was our excitement of the night, was a medical, actually, not the fire.
so because you've all lived here longer than Jeff and I have, would you say that fire and firearms are the quickest response by the sheriff?
well,
No, because we've had medical calls here where as fast as we
Or
are, sheriff's
medical?
still- yeah, we've
Okay.
had stuff that are fairly serious, and they're here quick.
Because you mentioned about enforcing at 10:30 or 11. I think that's where the issue comes down to. How do we as a city enforce?
I'm okay if the sheriff comes out and just says, it's after hours, go home. I don't care if he issues a citation personally, I would just like him to invite them to leave.
Well, I guess my biggest concern is because we've called a lot about what
They don't-
happens up on Deep Forest. By the time they come, because of the 4 areas that our sheriff now covers, Fairview, Ocean,
mhm,
and there's another one that's an hour north,
Yeah.
the people are gone.
mhm.
So how
It
do
just
we
depends on how
enforce?
close they happen to be when you make the call, I
Yeah.
realize that.
Yeah. And that's something that Wayne has said to us as a committee. When we write an ordinance, like we're trying to do with lighting, think how we're going to enforce it. I mean, is it Lunt, did you say, across
Mhm.
from the park? They've put up one of those big sport court lights. There's one, Rodents have one.
Oh, there's lights everywhere.
And when you come down, what's the road that the mayor lives on?
Homestead.
That,
Homestead.
if the light is on, it hits you right in the eyes when you come to the stop sign there to turn left or right on, Eagle's Nest. So, and Wayne said those should have had a permit to put those in. But again, people don't know. So again, it comes down to enforcement.
Well, so that we don't just kick the can down the road, can we decide here and now what that time is?
Can we make a recommendation?
Yeah, I want a recommendation.
And again, whether it's 10:30 or 11, I'm not really,
Well, I
Give
like
us one
the,
word
I
there.
like the 10:30 because the noise ordinance has a misdemeanor attached to it and then the sheriff is supposed to enforce that.
okay.
So if it was
Well,
10:30, that would be
I
great.
recommend we suggest to
Really?
them that be 10:30. We're looking for
And what's the morning suggestion?
6.
Okay,
To Greg's point,
I'd go for 7 if you want, but I think
to Greg's
Forget what
point,
it is.
in the summertime, when it doesn't get dark, and do we want to have summer hours?
No.
Winter
I
hours?
thought of winter and summer, but, so what do you do? Tying it in with the daylight savings? It's just more confusion. I think you just
Yeah.
pick a time and,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really dark by 10 o'clock. And let's give them a half hour to clean up and get out and say 10:30.
we don't have lights in that pavilion, therefore it's not enticing for people to stay past dark unless they bring their own lighting.
Well, and if someone wanted to have a function, you
They
come
can
down
go
to the
through a
city
permit
hall and
get
you
a
do,
permit
Yeah.
or something,
and
yeah.
you say, I need to be there till 11 and it's cool
Get a
and everybody
permit.
knows. Yeah.
So does that line up consistent with the other
With the noise-
curfew hours?
Yes.
Okay.
10:30
Six,
does.
6 and
So
10:30?
10:30
I think
would be
it's
noise
6.
and Park shut down.
Okay.
And then 6 a.m.
I'll have to check the noise ordinance, but I think
Either
that's
6
what
or-
it, should we
I
just
think
say
the noise is 7.
in conjunction, park hours should be in conjunction with the noise ordinance?
I'm fine with that.
Let me ask Michelle and Natalie something. The private security that you have there in Summit Creek, do they have any kind of enforcement capabilities? Are they empowered to do any kind of, what do they do? Is just a presence? Do they, do
They
they?
talk to people. Yeah, they've kicked people out of the pool. They, you know.
They're armed. I mean.
Can he write tickets? He doesn't do that?
Can't write tickets. Yeah, it's more enforcing, but they enforce like can't be in the pool and, you know, they're.
Yeah, like down at our mailbox there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people want to gather down there. But
He
they-
invites them to leave.
But it's a no trespassing.
Yeah.
So they-
And that's private property there, so they can ask them to leave, and then if not, they can call.
Well, Summit Creek is part of Woodland Hills, right? I mean, could the city empower that?
We'd have to join in that payment. I mean, there's a payment there they make to that guy privately from Summit Creek, homeowner, you know.
And he's there from 6 at night till I think 2 in the morning.
Yes, and he's not there in the winter. He comes like at about April or May or something.
Oh, he's not even
And
there in
this
the winter?
lasts through November, somewhere like that. Yeah, so he's not.
I've
But-
spent a few nights with him this winter.
But he seems- that seems to be-
House for fire stuff.
It seems to be effective too, what he's doing for you.
Just a presence.
Yeah.
And I think more, yeah, having to. For people,
Well, and also in addition to that, if we're, as residents, we can let the security know we're gonna be gone from this time to this time, these
And then he'll
dates.
look
Oh,
at your
that's
house.
They
nice.
watch over our
Very good.
house and everything, so they
Yeah.
will, you know, they will keep specific.
You know, it kind of begs the question in my mind, now that we're on that subject. Summit Creek is part of Woodland Hills. Doral, did Summit Creek have to get permission to have?
Cause they have an HOA.
That's all.
So the
handled.
HOA is,
That's
The
all-
HOA is who's hired.
That's
the
all through their
security.
HOA, yeah,
okay,
Their swimming pool, all that, the security's all through
Okay.
their HOA, all through their HOA dues.
yeah.
okay. So within the guidelines of the charter of the HOA, they can have a
Yep,
private security. Okay.
yep.
But the city could too, right?
I-
Just
I-
have to.
The
I don't
city
know.
is contracted with the county sheriff
Yeah,
for these services at this
Yeah,
dollar
The
amount.
issue is we just don't get the sheriff's service enough.
right.
That's
Right.
basically what it.
Now, the
boils
current
down to.
deputy that's assigned here, Dutson, is probably the best we've had.
He's quite
But again-
attentive.
He's very attentive.
But he's one guy.
But he's one guy.
Yeah.
He's gonna work his 40 hours a week, which is enough, and then he's split over several areas. We aren't paying enough to have him exclusively.
what-
Elk Ridge is. They've got their own deputy because they're now paying for that.
So what are his hours, for instance, like his day hours? Because I mean, most things happen in the evening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
He changes them. Sometimes he does nights and he communicates with our fire chief, his hours usually,
Him and
but
Fred communicate. He's-
yeah, they talk a lot, but
he was trick or treating with the kids Saturday. He come up here.
yeah, he was there the whole night for the whole
night.
event.
Trying to think what else. he
Comes to
did.
every council meeting. I
Does he
mean,
live here?
No.
he meet the candidates
He was
night.
in the
Very
morning.
valuable that he was there, handled the situation.
He is.
So he's attentive
He's
when we
attentive.
pre-plan him, but when you call for assistance or 911, I've been
Some of them-
disappointed too at
Some of
times
them don't care.
in response times.
Where's an ambulance even coming from? Right here?
Downstairs.
Yeah, and Salem,
Salem.
we have our own medical team that responds before Salem arrives.
I thought it was just fire.
No.
Yeah, we have a
We have an
good,
ambulance downstairs. It's a rescue.
we have a good medical crew.
We've got a good.
Good volunteer.
And we train with Salem too, yeah.
Well,
It's
I'll
all,
give you some stats. We have about 30 of us on the fire department. 20 of us are EMTs, advanced EMTs, and there's 2 of them that are paramedics. So out of the 30, 20 are medical. A lot of us are cross-trained.
we're almost ready to transport, but we just can't cover the 24-hour shift
So
yet.
Salem backs us on that, but we're usually still
Yeah.
first on scene, and then if there's more.
I think it's great.
It is going well.
We have
Yeah.
we have some phenomenal
And we respond to
medical people.
Summit
They're
Creek as
very
well.
well trained.
So back to the hours
Okay.
again, would we recommend that a sign go in the park?
I
Because
would,
Then the
yeah.
sheriff has something to
Yes.
enforce if he's there. Okay.
I would actually recommend multiple signs.
Yeah,
I think you
several.
put one or two up on the Bowery that you attach to it, the pavilion. And then I think you should have two or three that are kind of in that parking perimeter area, so people would see that as they're walking up.
Well, there was a discussion, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, one of the other hot spots in the city in that regard would be at the bottom of Eagle's Nest.
And that is posted.
That is posted.
It says no parking after dark.
I think the sign
Same
is
thing.
down.
I think it disappeared.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
Chief
did.
did go looking for it in the bushes, didn't he? Maybe let's get a new one up.
Yeah.
Because there's Vista Circle, there's your circle, Deep Forest, and Eagle's Nest that I'm aware of that have that posted.
And I can testify that almost every night Eagle's Nest has.
I know.
We know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it depends on the deputy. They used to write tickets when we had the young lady that was from the sheriff's office. And the later deputies have chosen themselves to not write tickets anymore. Because it's like you said, I call them because there's a bunch of noise up there and they're having a party at 3 a.m. We call them and they are gone before they get there, with my luck. Or when they did catch them, they didn't write a ticket. So it's frustrating, but
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Mr. Chair? So you're talking about putting a sign back out there. I've mountain biked in that area and I've noticed there's not a sign there. I've seen it in Deep Circle. If you're going to put a sign out there again, I understand there's a cost involved with putting security out there. There's a lot of fake cameras out there, and just the presence of somebody's watching you will slow down a lot of that. You see that in a lot, and I'm a lot in commerce. So at a retail side of things, even a fake camera is enough to deter people from their presence. So just something I wanted to suggest, because that's a very low cost and a very high impact.
Yeah, Dora, maybe you try that on Eagle's Nest. You don't have to buy it all. Maybe you try it in one location.
Well, there was one there.
Well, Ted
We used to
Mickelson,
live up here.
Ted Mickelson
It
has
did
two in
pass
his
notice.
front yard that catches everything going by, but it doesn't catch what happens.
so I put a game camera
That
up there
was
where
turned
it
off.
caught the guys destroying
Ted's
stuff.
got-
That
Ted's
worked well. We
Ted
gave it
has
to,
two.
they got tickets, lived in Salem.
That's how they caught some of the debris and stuff.
So, yeah, that was a real one in the
It
trees.
goes down full of stuff and it comes back empty.
So do we
Okay.
need a motion to do this, or do we just say the door will
Well, I'm,
Motion and second and vote, and then there's
Let's do
all the
that.
teeth in it.
anybody want a motion? I'll make a motion that we send a suggestion to planning and the mayor that the hours in the park be the same as the noise ordinance and that a sign be created to reflect those hours. And anything else the city wants to put on them. I have to check the noise ordinance. I'm not sure. I know it expires at 10:30. I think it's 6.
Okay, if you'd share that with me when you find that,
Okay,
I'll second.
all approved?
Aye.
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 Okay.
You need anything written, or you just carry that forward to?
well, when I get a hold of your minutes, I'll use those, but
Okay.
I'm taking notes too.
He's been typing furiously over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last month, PTR members hiked the trail.
Can you go back to number 3
Sure,
first?
yes, sorry, I
Is that
forgot
okay?
one. Is this something that we still want to do? City council gave us the approval to put, I call them stove stands. They're like the ones in the state parks, the metal pole with a flat, and has a little lip on the back that you can put your gas stove on.
Okay, you've answered my question. If it's something to put a gas stove on, we're okay.
Not
If it's
briquettes.
briquettes, no,
No,
we would, no,
No,
okay.
just a gas
So
stove.
that would have to be spelled out
Could-
on it too in a plaque.
Could someone get a picture of what one of these looks like, maybe?
Yeah, I can get a
And we
picture.
could,
How many are you thinking?
Well, I think we'd asked for 2, but where do we want to put them? That's the thing that the city council needs to know. Where around the pavilion do we want
suggestion.
to put these? To make a suggestion. So does
I
anybody?
just saw them at the state parks that I was in, and they are very nice and very convenient.
You don't have to bend over to cook.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it keeps them off the tables in the
Yes,
pavilion.
Yeah.
exactly.
Burn a hole in those tables.
Right.
It'd be nice.
So if we did 2 either end of the west, on the west side of the pavilion,
Yeah.
that if you're facing the
Sounds good to
playground,
me.
Mhm.
I'll
And
second
then if they
that.
were used a lot, then we can add more later.
yeah,
But if we started with 2.
good location,
You like the west side, okay?
look facing west, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I will get a picture
Thank you.
to city
Okay.
council. For October, we hiked the trail to look at maintenance. I've talked to Carrie about this. EWP asked the city, I believe, or it was part of our agreement that we had, that the city would maintain the water bars on the trail and maintain the trail. We don't really have any money budgeted for this right now. There's $20,000 in the Parks, Trails, Recreation line of the budget. 10,000 of that is for chipper days, and 10,000 is for the regular maintenance that goes on the park. It's been there year after year after year. It's always been 10,000. So we went up and looked at what
I
needed
don't
to
know
be
when they
done.
can Put barbecue
Um,
for kids.
The water bars,
cool.
for the most
Yeah,
part,
okay, thank you.
are pretty much flattened out. And the channels that run off down the side of the mountain where the water's supposed to go are full of rocks and dirt. It's mainly rocks and dirt. So the water isn't going where it's supposed to go. So the water bars need to be dug out. And then with the dirt that's dug out of them, packed up again on the water bars, because the water bars have flattened out. So the water is just going over. And I suggested that I call Craig today. Because I'll be honest, Dora, we didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to proceed with this. And I called Craig and I said, Craig, is this something you can do? Do you have a piece of equipment that can go up there? We tried to do it with shovels. It's just not possible. It's way too labor intensive. But if we could get volunteers to go behind Craig or Mike with their equipment when they start at the top coming down, digging out the channel, flattening it down and making sure that the drainage runs off, the water does, and then they can sit again over the winter like they did last year. Because I think the EWP project was in October.
October. Yeah,
Yeah.
October, November, yeah.
And they sat over the winter. If we wait until spring and we pack them down, then we're going to have to close the trail to motorized vehicles again because they won't have had a chance to set up.
Sure, do you get the sense that the kind of erosion or flattening of those water bars was due to the rain we had this summer? Or just use, or what? They weren't, it wasn't any constructed, it was just a kind of mounded dirt, a little small trench, and then the dirt.
Yeah,
it's
it's
tough,
tough,
runoff.
yeah. If they're left alone, they do the job, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a combination of things, and they all of them, some of them were intact, some of them were okay. I think it's just something that's just going to require daily, yearly maintenance, you know? Don't let them go 5 or 6 years, and then you won't, then you've got a real project. But if you, and it won't take that long. I mean, it was 7 or 8 volunteers and a skid steer or
Last year
something.
we had a Trails Day, and I'd
Yeah.
like to continue that every year, and
Yeah.
maybe that would involve going up and cleaning out or kind of
Right.
reestablishing the water bars. But I think it's too late to do anything right now, but as we enter spring, maybe.
Well, I think we're okay if we do it right away.
We have a pretty short weather window.
Yeah, you can pass this around, you can see. Those of us that hike the trail, you know what they look like.
Yeah, that's, I don't like it on a regular basis. Because I talked to Craig today, he's going up tomorrow, I asked him to take pictures of all 12 or however many
Yeah.
there were. So he's going to do that tomorrow. But my personal thought on this, I know the city's probably got some, I'm sure the city's committed to the DNR to maintain these, whatever that means. I don't know. I've never seen the contract. But my personal opinion is I think the people that use that trail should be the ones that come and help maintain that. Does that make sense? If people are hiking it or riding it or whatever, then we put it out there, put it on the Facebook page and invite the people that use that to come up and help maintain it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it should be per se the city's responsibility to do that if these others will step up and help maintain something that they benefit from.
And if the city will give us a piece of equipment.
Yeah,
and
if
have an
equipment's
operator.
needed, and again, I haven't seen it. If it's just sediment that's come down, it might just be a pick and a shovel. Yeah, these are two-dimensional, it's hard to see.
It's,
That as well, sir. As somebody who uses the trail quite a bit, and I moved out here in May, and I've probably used it like countless times, to be honest, sometimes 3-4 times a week. I've seen it erode over the time from May to now. And I fully agree that as somebody who uses it, and hopefully, I'm part of a future committee member here, I agree that this is something that we can manage with the users of the trail. I think this is something I brought up at our Woodland Hills town meeting is I think there's a lack of understanding of what it should look like, where it should be. I think you would see a lot of volunteers, even if not asked, just somebody who's going to come out there and clean it myself. I'm the perfect example. I would happily put in my time while I'm up there. I just need to know where it should be. That's the biggest thing is I'm not going to go up there and mess things up. I would like to know what it should look like, and I will help maintain it as somebody a part of the city. So that trail is important to me, and I'd like to see more and more trails develop here. And I feel if we can't take care of the one that we have, we're not going to see future progress. So if we could get the rest of our community to understand that, I think that will be helpful in the people who truly use it. And there's countless numbers of people. I mean, I see new faces every single time I'm up there. So it's a highly used trail, and it's a great trail, has great elevation in a short amount of time, a lot of positives to it. It's beautiful. But I really think that that's something the city can do as a whole better, is kind of setting an expectation for us as just say a community member, what it should look like, what it used to look like. I mean, we could go back to the drainage in front of my property. I bought it in May. It's been full with rocks and dirt since I owned it. So what should it look like? I have no clue.
Well, I know Sherry suggested several times that we mark those locations, some type of permanent.
yeah, and I think that came to a head more after this fall snowstorm that we had. Doral went up and cut down a few trees. But if volunteers go up and they then take those trees and just push them off to the side, technically they could be right on the water bar where the drainage goes off. And I did talk to Craig about that today to mark them, but I don't know, Doral, did the city take a video? I mean, what Brad's talking about, what the trail should look like was after EWP was done.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
It was.
There was no, another thing we need to do for maintenance is get all the rocks that the ATVs kick up. They're all going towards the downward side of the mountain when they make the corners. And it's just natural because they kick up the dirt and then the rocks come out. But for hikers coming down, particularly when it's dry, you have a tendency to slip because of all the rocks. And after EWP was done, it was phenomenal. It was flat. There was no grading to it this way. There were no rocks. We had the water bars. It was an incredible looking trail. And if we could get to that every year, I think it's easy, provided we have the equipment.
So Doral, and I know what a fan of the mitigation you are. What was the intent on mitigation maintenance for this?
Well,
Switchbacks for long term.
I just know every year for as long as I've lived here, volunteers have done something to that trail every spring, and there's been major work. I mean, I've seen washed out ruts and everything. The mitigation turned it into a very flat,
Yep.
better trail than it's ever been. But there are volunteers that on their own, without any city involvement, have in the past years done something to that every year and made it pretty nice, but not to the level that I think Sherry's
Need somebody
hoping.
in charge that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think the manpower's out there.
Well,
You just need somebody who knows.
I
what
think
they're
a city
doing.
employee should be involved with it.
Don,
Yeah.
Don Meekum used to do that all the
Oh,
time.
really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
When he lived here. Of course,
Oh.
he's been gone, what, 6, 7 years,
Uh-huh.
maybe. But, I mean, he had the equipment, he had the love of,
Yeah.
seeing that happen. In fact, it was my understanding, he was the one that built that. And I don't know if that's right, but,
Well, and
So
somebody told me
he's-
scouts helped
he's
on it
gone.
every year too.
Yep.
some scouts helped
Scouts
with
don't
the,
exist anymore.
I know,
Well,
that's
and
true.
the scouts
Yeah.
and the volunteers.
That's what I meant. That's
They're
what I
bless their
meant.
hearts, but, they didn't have any supervision, they didn't have anybody.
Well,
to-
again, 'cause I work with the young men, we could rally them in the spring, but again, we need somebody there to
Yeah.
give them direction.
Doral, I
We
think,
need equipment. for sure.
I think this is an opportunity for the city to really kind of highlight the fact that it's concerned, it's interested, it wants to participate. And, the city has, with the sponsorship of the city, that will create some momentum, and get everybody, other people on board. So I think the city ought to take an active part in it as well.
I do too.
The one thing that concerns me is you start at the top and work down, which makes sense
Oh, yeah.
with your equipment.
Mhm.
The top is DNR land. And the easement that the city has doesn't specify anything from what I've seen on the county docks.
How many water bars are on the DNR?
I'd say probably 9 or you think 3? I know one's totally flat.
After the avalanche.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, it's
8 or
before
9?
that a little bit.
I'd say
Yeah,
maybe 3
maybe.
to 4 at that point,
Yeah, maybe.
at least that are still
At least.
existing. So
Yeah.
from what I ride.
One of them's
I've ridden-
totally flat.
Yeah, so they, because I ride a mountain bike typically, so I have to be prepared for them. And
There are better
leave
places
every
than
time.
that, Mike, here
So,
locally.
what's that?
There's better places than that.
I know, but there's not one more convenient, so.
I go to Basin because that to me just doesn't,
Yeah, tell you all the better things.
I mountain bike 4 days a week.
Awesome. Yeah, it's, from my experience, there's about that many. And yes, they are continuing to get more and more washed out and everything there. So, and as you get up more towards the top of the DNR land, you get more rocky and you're dealing with different elements there. So, but yeah, to your point and to everybody's point here, I think just a little bit of guidance of what we'd like the trail to look like, I think would go a long way. From what I've seen, I travel trails throughout the entire state because of where my job takes me. And there's a lot of trails that set those expectations at the bottom of the trail. And you'd be surprised to see even people who are not part of that community, don't live there, respect those guidelines and help out and continue to contribute. They see things that have fallen, they see things that are not right based on what they learned at the bottom of the trail, and they actively progress the trail on their way up and down while they enjoy it. So that would be my biggest suggestion as somebody who's an enthusiast of these, that the more guidance we give, the more we're going to get back, because unfortunately you'd mentioned a couple people who have kind of taken the liberty of doing it. Well, I personally haven't done that because I don't know what it should be.
Yeah.
I don't want to take the liberty and assume that it should be this way, and maybe I'm catering it just to myself, and now I'm making something that's detrimental to something else, right? So I'm the type that I won't do anything until I know I'm doing the right thing. So I think a little bit of that guidance at the bottom would go a long way. And I've seen a lot of private trails that, I should say more HOA types. I've had a discussion with you two about it. High Star Ranch out in Camas, they have a really good trail system that's been professionally built, and they set their expectations at the bottom on some pretty large signs with, quite a bit of rules. And they literally leave the governing to the city itself and say, hey, you're welcome here, but if you're doing anything wrong, anybody who's a resident here has the authority to ask you to leave. and that place is very, very well kept.
Well, just as simple as stay on the trail.
Yes, that's a huge
I
one.
think it's switchback 2 that curves around to the right. People are now shortcutting
Yeah,
and cutting up.
I've seen that.
So
Good place to
placing
plant a tree.
rocks or whatever, and like
What
you
he's
say,
saying is, you have a
notify.
sign at the bottom, and one of them is,
Yeah.
please stay on trail, no shortcuts, however you want to word it.
Correct.
And that's where you start to manage those
Before
expectations.
the dirt pile, we had a place built for this sign that we were going to
Kiosk.
put on,
Yeah.
and that's gone now. The kiosk is gone, but we need to
When
Can I-
revisit that.
Greg, how did your project go at the park? I mean, you asked for volunteers. I sure meant to come volunteer because I want to help out my friend Greg and I want to help out the park. I never made it either
Yeah,
day, but
We actually got that whole line of fencing done last Saturday. along
So
the vacation
people-
channel in the
so
park.
people did show up.
Yeah, and what we were doing last Saturday was kind of a test, just to see how.
What the
workload
response
and
is.
What the problems were, and we kind of worked out the bugs. And so when you have an auger there drilling holes, you need a team of 4 people to follow the line, 4 to 6 people. So we had hoped to do it this coming Saturday and do the mitigation lot. We don't have a skid steer or an operator. Both Jimmy DeGraff and Reed and John Stout are out this Saturday. But they both committed to next Saturday.
Oh.
So on Saturday, what is that, the 16th, 13th, or whatever, anyway, on 13th.
6:13.
So on Saturday, the 13th, we'll be out there, and if the weather holds up for us, we'll be able to do that mitigation lawn. We'll probably have 2 skid steers to do the work.
Very
And-
cool.
And we have a number of people that have committed to that Saturday. Last Saturday was difficult because of Halloween, and we had
The ball game.
so more local city activity, trunk or treat, and other things.
Yeah.
Well, I was just wondering, like if we're saying we're going to have a trail day, everybody come help. I'm just wondering what was the
But
response?
Those kind, with enough advance
got a lot
notice
of
and planning
last year.
and beating the bushes, we got a good turnout. We had 20 people out for our
Oh,
trail
that's
day
great.
a year ago.
It's great.
And, yeah, people show up.
Good.
I believe you'll see even a higher attendance if you set a little bit of expectations on what they're showing up for. That's kind of even as a newer resident, kind of, hey, we need help for this. It's, well, I don't know if my skill sets align with what you're asking for. So I think that would be something that would go a long way as well. If you're like, hey, this is what we're looking to accomplish. This is what we need help with. I think you're going to get a lot more able bodies to those.
Just be very
situations.
specific.
Very-
Yes, the more specific, the better. I mean, why not? I mean, the more general you are, I mean, there are a group of people who are just going to show up because they want to help. They're just generous souls that want to be there and help in any way they can. But I myself, I'm not the type that's going to show up for something where maybe my skill set doesn't align to what you're asking for, and I'm just kind of wasting my time and wasting your time. So,
But anybody with a rake can get rid
but
of
that's
it.
what I'm saying.
Right.
Explain that expectation, that would go a long way, because
Right.
even on switchbacks, as we're talking about, if we took the time to just rake the rocks off,
Yep.
I mean, that would go a long way for every
Everybody
user on
can
that.
do
I
that.
mean, I personally came across a female who was in turn 1, was with a rolled ankle on some rocks there, and I had to find a resident that had a UTV to send up there to help her get down because she couldn't get down. Just there was enough rolled rocks right there. She was a very young, athletic looking female, and that caught her off guard, so. And I've been up there kicking rocks, moving rocks and stuff, but again, it's more of that expectation. I think if we understand what we're asking them for, somebody goes, oh, I'm good at that. I would happily go help with that. But hey, if we're planting flowers, this and that, that's not my skill set. I'm not the green thumb, right? So it's I think really setting a expectation will go a long way.
Doral, can you find out if there is any kind of video that exists? I mean, I may have some pictures, but I don't have it of the whole trail. Oh, Ted may know, yeah,
Okay.
Or at least know. who
after the
does.
EWP was finished, yeah.
And Ted may be, I hate to commit him to anything because I know how busy he is. Ted may be a good one to sort of spell out what those water bars should look like. They should be roughly 15 inches across, 8 inches, or whatever, you know.
Okay.
Something like that, okay, we can work with that.
Yep.
Yeah, that gives you a ballpark, yeah.
Has there been a sign, a big sign with trail rules
No.
on it?
What's
Not
the one
yet.
that was up by the dirt pit? I'll be honest, I never read it because I don't go that
It
way.
never got built. It never got put up. The, what do you call it, was there with
Kiosk.
the roof? Kiosk was there, but we never did put a sign up.
Well,
There
there's
is a sign
something
that
there about
exists.
plants.
That-
but
It's all about plants. It
Plants,
has
that's what I
nothing
thought.
about regulations,
Yeah.
expectations,
Legal
nothing on
project
that
did
front.
that,
So
yeah.
the only thing that I'd say that has any form of regulation is fire. Just no expectation of fire. Then as you enter the trail at the bottom, close to your guys' property, that's where it tells
Avalanche.
you if it's open for motorized vehicles or not. And that's where the chain is. Other than that, there's really, again, as just a pure enthusiast, there is no expectations on how you can use that trail. So in my opinion, we're kind of setting ourselves up for failure if we
Well,
don't want certain
There's a lot
use
going
of it.
on in that area, and as soon as we put a sign up, they're gonna tear it down and build something else.
Unfortunately, yes, it's
But
changed
dirt pile
every day.
probably-
I ride up there 3
Yeah.
times a week sometimes just for convenience, and
Yeah.
it changes every single
Yeah,
day.
it's crazy.
Well, and I think the sign is down too that was up the easement road that said trail access. I mean, there's one there on Deep
Yeah, I
Forest
think that
Circle,
one-
but then with all the mounds of dirt between the trucks hauling dirt up there and Taylor's building, I think that sign's disappeared. So now people don't even know how to get to the trail
Mhm.
because the sign is down. So the majority cut through Toolers. So that needs to go back up too. But that's what we noticed.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I really like the idea of the expectations. And even if we could set like, how are your feelings about, is this an annual event? Or is this,
I think it should be like a spring trail spruce up every,
Mhm.
I say at least annually. if not-
Spring and fall?
I think a spring falls would be good.
Yeah.
yeah,
Spring and early fall.
Yeah, and-
Because you get a lot of traffic up in the fall because it's beautiful. Once fall kicks in, the amount of traffic quadrupled at least.
and we don't get
So-
as much in the winter.
Yes.
We get a lot of sledders.
Yep.
Snowshoers. Some hikers, no motorized vehicle.
Right.
traffic.
Only because it can't do that later.
Yeah. it's too much.
Snowmobiles.
No, I've never
Snowmobiles.
seen one.
No?
So one
Really?
thing I want to add
I
about
have.
cutting through that property, one thing I'd say is the construction's made those elements actually pretty dangerous, to be honest. I have young children and I would happily cut through that property even with the no trespassing sign because the proper way to go is extremely dangerous.
Oh, it
It's
is.
whether you're walking, whether you're on a vehicle, whether you're on a mountain bike, it doesn't matter. I mean, you're talking, if I mountain bike down the main track, I 100% of the time take a rock this large and shit
Yep.
every single day.
Yep.
Really messed
So
up.
it's really gotten messed up from the
Yeah.
construction, whether you're going up or you're going down that. It's dangerous to be blunt.
I know
Honestly,
it
as a
is.
city, I think it's almost in our best interest to let people cut through because it's less liability, but it's that bad right now.
will that be changed though? I mean.
That'll
after
get cleaned
construction?
up when they're
Will it get
through,
cleaned up?
is what we've heard, but
Well, you've got day traders going on, but
There's a lot of other stuff going on.
the city's got plenty going on.
Yeah. yeah.
Corbett keeps finding more projects, so.
There's a lot going on. Okay, so I think we know where we are in trail maintenance.
So I do want to echo the managing the expectations, because
Yeah,
again,
me
as a
too.
mountain biker, and I'm all over the west, even up into Canada. Yeah, I read the expectations at the bottom, if I didn't know them beforehand, you read those and
Yeah,
you work with them, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's
It's not-
honestly, especially both your mountain bike and your off-road motocross crew, they're very diligent to follow the rules because they don't want to lose their access,
No.
right? So if you set those expectations, they're going to follow those. And I mean, I've literally seen people enforce expectations when people decide to go against them, self-govern
Yeah.
because they don't want to lose their trail access. And I'm those type. I've been in this my entire adult life. For my entire career has been around this type of stuff. So, and I grew up in California and I lost everything in California.
Yeah, it's
So
really
I
bad.
don't want to see the same thing happen here in our great state where we have so much outdoor access, right? So I've actually been very, I'd say just excited to see how well people will follow the rules if they understand them. So, I mean, it could be Payson Canyon, I mean, all these things, just the signs that they have,
Yep.
they go a long ways, and it's funny, because I've been in those situations where Payson Canyon does not like ATVs.
No.
I've seen guys come up with ATVs, hey, where can I ride this? I'm like, dude, unfortunately, you're in the wrong spot.
You're in the wrong spot.
You know, and let him know that, oh, dang, okay, you know, and he didn't further, you know, so you're gonna have your outliers, obviously, but, I think if we set an expectation, the majority are gonna be willing to follow.
Well, and I liked what you said, Brad, about more trails. Just hopping down to this pump track a little bit in terms of more trails. When the idea of pump track came up, we looked at the plats in Woodland Hills. And the only flat land that the city owns is in the park. The rest of the city land is in ravines. Down there
Anything
behind
not
me,
flat.
behind Meekum's house, there's, I think, 17 acres or whatever. And yes, up by the water tanks, but we know how we feel about our water tanks and protecting our water and the other projects that are involved up there. There really is no other place. Our trail is it, from what I can see right now, unless the city gets easements on the back of people's property that are behind Woodland Hills.
Where are you talking, Sherry? Over by Don, where Don Meekum used to live?
Yeah, the city owns, I think it's about 17 acres down in there.
Oh.
Is it ravine? Oh, that's.
Yeah,
right.
it's a
So-
ravine.
Over by
But
Pat's?
it's like this, it's not like.
Yeah,
It's
it's the side hill.
Back to the Eagle's Nest.
A Beagle Nest, oh, the back end
Yeah.
of
It's
Beagle
not
Nest?
there, and then there's some stuff over.
Where there's the
down on
emergency.
Eagle Nest.
exit?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Past there.
What's in between Eagle Nest and Oak? Is that privately owned? Is that part of the city? I believe it is, those two boundaries?
Between Eagle's Nest and Oak.
It goes right up, it basically goes
Summit
to
Creek
Summit,
owns it.
correct?
Summit Creek, most of it's Summit Creek.
Well, and the only access to the ravine would have been through Summit Creek lots, or there's one individual that owns at the bottom of the circle there. I can't remember what his name is, but you'd have to have an easement to go across their property to even get in the
oh,
ravine.
Valentine's. Valentine's.
Well, they're in
All
lower.
time down lower.
I don't think
Yeah,
it's
I don't know.
But
What about Maple Canyon? What does the city own over there? Because there's a great little trail through there now. It's not long.
I think that's all Salem of Davis has moved into Salem, but yeah, I don't think we.
You don't have-
even
we don't
the
have
water
any of
tanks are
that?
Salem.
Oh, those are Salem.
That water tank's Salem House.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was
Yeah, we
Woodland
share.
Hills.
Emergency access that goes down through there.
Yeah.
Salem.
Is Salem or Davis.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought.
The salt shed, that's on Salem property too, isn't it?
Part of it. Part of it. is.
but we have an
Yeah.
easement for that.
Yeah. The road that goes back to the salt shed,
Uh-huh.
is that an easement?
I believe that's city.
If you, well, you guys technically not supposed to be back there, but when we go back there, if you look, because we go back and salt, there's some dumping that occurred when they put in the water lines that was not supposed to be there.
Well, and it's ugly.
It's ugly.
But that would be a perfect pump track.
Do you want?
Well, it
people
is
going
flat.
down the road?
Well, I do. That'd be good use.
Towards
for
the
that.
entrance, yeah, but you don't want people back in.
Right out there where that trash is piled. That'd be a
Yes.
great bike
The
ride.
city doesn't own all
We're trying to
Well-
get the plans from Springville, because Springville put one in up by their water tanks.
Yeah.
Just to have an idea of
Just
how
that
much land we
size, yeah.
need. And,
Yeah.
uh,
That'd be great use of that junk that's been piled there.
But we have a lot of dirt.
Yeah, yeah, we do.
The easement that goes back to the salt shed, if you're driving down if you're driving down that little dirt road, the salt shed's ahead of you,
Yeah.
on the right-hand side, is that private property?
Well, that's full of junk too, and that's the city's. But
that. But he's talking on the road going back.
I know
Get back.
the road is the city's and there's space to the right
Yeah.
going up the hill.
There is space?
And it goes up a little ways, but I don't know
But it goes
Do
exactly.
you know how wide that space
It
is?
goes up to an evacuation out there by Clint's.
It does.
It's only a road.
There is a dirt road that goes up
Hold on.
that used to be it's an evacuation road that we used to use, but
That seems like a good spot.
I know, well, I think just off.
That
the
is a good
salt shed,
spot.
It is a good spot.
But I thought it was an easement.
Where would people park? How would they park if
Oh,
kids want?
no, there's a lot of parking back there. you know, we don't want to get in the way of the snow plowing, but it wouldn't be used in the winter either, you know, really.
Mm-mm.
But that's a place I would pursue.
It's a ways to go, but what the heck? I mean, there's no really any
You
other
gotta find
place.
somewhere before you do anything.
Yeah.
Right? That's. so
I don't
I'm
think the
trying
city
down
would,
county
the
maps.
city wouldn't cotton to taking part of the park and making it into a pump track, would they?
I don't think they want to lose that pretty green grass.
Well, no, it would be to the right of where Greg has put his fencing.
You know,
Kind of
right
behind
at the field.
Kind
Winters,
of by the horseshoe
Yes,
pits?
I remember we brought in that field.
to the right of
yeah,
that.
I think they're wanting to do the.
I don't know if that's a big enough area, but yeah, it'd be interesting to hear your plans, how they come
And we
out.
just thought it would
Yeah.
be,
Because
See what we need.
to me,
how
that
much
would be
land we
good
need.
use of that
What
junk
size?
that's.
Just kind of a
dirt
general
junk.
question. I like the idea of a pump track, okay? I would never use it, but I think it's a fun concept,
It
okay?
does.
But there are obviously security, safety, kind of quality of life. Is it consistent with who we are as a community? So let me ask the question, who's proposing this and who's driving this idea? And might they be the best ones to design it and kind of move it forward?
well,
Is
it
anybody
was,
here
Pump
really
track?
familiar with what that involves?
it was an idea that as a committee,
Uh-huh.
just kind of materialized. And we just started investigating where it might go. And the park, a few committee members said would be a great place for it because the park is already no motorized vehicles, so it's just for bicycles.
Yeah.
So, and you've got
But
the
look,
hours
that's
in
our
the
wide
park. If we go
road.
down by the salt shed, that could be a whole nother.
Well, I want
ball
to
of
get
wax.
down by the
If we
building.
were to do it in the park, I'd want to make it an asphalt
so what
track.
kind of
In other words,
room you got
let's
there?
not gouge the park with a dirt track. And asphalt tracks have
Yeah,
a
well,
much
it's all
higher
junked up.
cost.
It's perfect to make that.
So I would be
You push some
inclined
of that
to,
Okay,
junk
why
around
why
and
do you
have
feel
dirt
asphalt
piles.
over
Would that be
dirt? 'Cause we
perfect?
have so much dirt.
well, because you take grass, you'd have to cut out the
That
grass
thing is,
and
there's nothing
do
you're
a
gonna hurt there.
significant
It's
amount
a
of work.
terrible line down
Anyway,
the
I
telephone
just-
pole.
kind of look at the park with
Yeah.
all that green grass and I
City
just don't want to
doesn't want people
destroy
there,
the,
but
what we
can
have in
pass
the
it
park.
on.
No, it's our aesthetic.
Yeah.
With a
for
dirt
reason.
track. Now, if we can find some other place that's already dirt and mound and mold that dirt to create a pump track, that'd be.
Awesome.
So I think you'll see in a lot of other states that I've been to that have pump tracks, to your point, the asphalt is the most sustainable. It holds up, it doesn't require future maintenance. Yes, the initial cost can be a little bit more costly, depending on donations as well. There's a lot of asphalt companies. It just takes grindings, properly ground down in place and put in place to where they could use a lot of excess material to create such a thing. So a donation to them, it's a tax write-off. They get a little placard at the park that they donated this, and that kind of keeps the dirt in place as well. Then you're not worrying about future maintenance like we're talking about with switchbacks. You're not talking about dust. You're not talking about a lot of those things, as well as a lot of bikers like to add their own elements to things. So they start changing and adding to it. If it's asphalt, it stays in place, and this is the challenge that people like to do. And to add on to where I wasn't here when obviously this materialized, but where I got to anticipate where this materialized is somebody who's a new resident with 3 young children. We live on nothing but grade, and I had to make sure every one of my children have mountain bikes now because you're not getting anywhere on a BMX bike in this town. So that would be, yes, it's a challenge, right? I'm on an e-bike, to be honest, right now.
That's how you.
So, but it's a challenge. So I think that would really help with the community, the kids, something to do. We're basically constantly talking about the challenges we're seeing in the park with the youth and the this and the that and that, but give them something to put their energy towards that's a little bit more productive and fun. I think that's going to go a long way for us. I agree. The grass out there is beautiful right now, but it's only so usable, right? So if we did add a little bit more to that, maybe even those guys that are visitors from Salem and where they're coming, they're going to be doing something a little more within lines of what we'd like to see them do versus the other things that we're seeing.
And we already have asphalt access through the park. So, if you just put a dirt track in the park, then you'd have people maybe cutting through the park on their bikes and doing more
On the
damage.
pump track,
Just all
it would
kinds of,
attract a lot more people.
all kinds of
It would.
red flags. Like,
It would
Yeah,
attract a
and
lot
that-
more people. It would encourage.
Do
want
we
that or
want
not?
to attract a lot of people?
Yeah.
So that's one thing you have to take a look at. In the end, if you look at the general ordinances and things that we're dealing with in the city, we have to talk about paying more taxes. We were talking about multiple dwellings. We're talking about high density, all that kind of stuff. Inevitably, we're going to see more people, right? My thought process on that, and I come with you to where I moved up here to get away from people, to be blunt. But at the same time, I know that what the state is enforcing us to do and what we need to see as a city, it's going to attract more people. People are going to come up here to see what it is. So, but if we have more for them to do that kind of aligns them with where we want to direct them, we're at least going to see the type of people that we want to see, rather than just seeing people up here off-roading in our park, off-roading in our trails, and not doing what we want them to do. If we align it with a certain amount of group of people that we would like to see them, hey, these mountain bikers are consistent with taking care of the trails. These pump bike guys stay within their proximity, and this is where they're staying. They take care of their trash. At least you're attracting the crowd and the type of people that you're giving them some direction, correct? So that would be my biggest thing is we need to give them direction of and attract the type of people we want in our community. Because in the end, Woodland Hills is not a hidden secret anymore. I showed up, I'm here, I found out about it, right? And there's more of us coming, and it's a matter of who do we want to attract is the way I look at it. You're not going to be able to hide this place anymore. It's too beautiful, it's well known, more and more people.
Well, like pickleball, basketball, I've been looking at grants, maybe there's grants for pump track. It could be, I've been looking at them for pickleball and basketball.
There definitely is in other
To see
states,
if
I'm
they're
not
out
familiar
there.
here, but I definitely have seen a lot of grant-funded things in California and other states to where it is something that you can get that kind of stuff. There's also community things from schools and everything on that
Yep.
front that can fund certain things as well, or at least manpower on that front as well. You were talking about the lack of flat spaces. Yes, the park's probably our only option for a pump track, but if we wanted to do anything mountain bike related with trails, that we have the elevation. We have some great opportunities there. I don't know what we own versus what we don't, but I think there's some opportunities that could be multi-use trails that could attract mountain bikers, that at least they bring a workforce. Unfortunately, none of these bring much financial aid outside of the off-roaders, which they at least have registration and things of that front, but obviously we don't want that in the middle of town. And I am an off-roader, by the way, but a mountain bike, I think, at least brings a lot of community effort, a lot of community focus, and they want to bring up the surroundings.
Well, and I think if we communicate with Summit Creek or any other, Four Seasons doesn't have that much. Well, they might, it would be flat, wouldn't be mountain biking. But particularly Summit Creek or other developers that may come in to incorporate trails into their system that the city could use if they're not.
For what it's worth, Summit Creek highly promoted mountain biking on all their videos. Jump on their website right now. When I came out here, I've been searching for those mountain bike trails that don't exist. So
Yeah.
It was
Well,
highly promoted.
They were there, they've overgrown,
Gotcha.
and they actually are, I think, private.
Well,
Use
yeah, I mean,
like-
it's one trail, it's a loop, it's a mile.
Okay.
So I think they would say proximity to them, meaning Forebay, which if you've seen what they've done
That's what I
in
write, is Forebay.
Forebay
I write it.
is amazing. And I don't know why we don't have the room to even build to compete with what they've got. Go 10 more minutes and right there is
Well, and you can get to Forebay.
from
through
Elk Ridge. Yeah,
But I'd rather drive the extra 10 minutes.
yeah.
Because it is a.
If you're on an e-bike, it's not that big
Yeah,
of a
if you're on an
challenge.
e-bike, you'd be just fine.
So I've ridden from my house clear to Forebay,
Yes,
so
okay,
it makes a big
okay.
difference. So I've been through there, but
I'm not doing the e-bike thing yet, so.
But we don't have near that kind of space. So the idea that we're going to build
No, we
amazing
won't get a
bike
network
trails.
of trails here because there's just no way to work.
No.
it out.
not at all. But I think
But
what
you could get some.
I think what you're going to see would be a big benefit is if you offer to your citizens some sort of connection point to Forebay. And I think
Oh,
that would go a
well,
long
that'd
way
be
because that
awesome.
would channel people head that way. Rather than this be the destination, this is your starting point. This brings more desirability here.
You're cutting across people's private property.
Yeah.
I mean, there's,
There is a way from Elk Ridge that I found that I rode just barely for the first time a month ago that is.
yeah, that
At the
road,
end of a dead street, at
Yep.
the end,
But
that
from-
is public access.
right.
Yep.
There's also
But-
the other one over by the golf course that the trespassers will be shot.
But yeah, but I think to say from here to there, it's private property,
Yeah,
or you
there's-
drive,
I'm not familiar with an easy
Yeah.
way from here to there.
but it's a short north hit.
We
drive.
mentioned the property at the end of Eagle's Nest. If there is a way to channel a trail down there through, sorry, I'm drawing a blank, Loafer Canyon.
Yeah.
I think that could potentially be an alternative as well.
Well, the emergency exit, that's on private
It's
property.
on private
right now.
property and it's
Yeah.
an emergency exit.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that I just looked, Panther, which is basically Summit Creek, owns most of that over there. There is that little sliver there that's Woodland Hills, and behind where that access
Mhm.
road is once you get off the property. But potentially, I think you could maybe get something through there that would go catch Loafer Canyon, go over, catch Elk Ridge and.
Yep.
potentially get over,
And for what it's worth, I mean, hikers are going pretty dang long distance these days too. So I'm not excluding this to just mountain bikes. I think there's a lot of people who would use this and further their ventures as they go that way, you know? So, I mean, I've explored a lot of our private property over there, or I don't know, I could be on public, private, I don't know. But I've explored a lot of the property over there and it's definitely very dense, very natural. So there's not any form of way to travel down there currently now. So, but I think that would give a lot of credit to what we're trying to accomplish. Give people some sort of way of recreation to where they're not on private property, to where they're not infringing on things that we don't want them to do. And it would kind of link us to some of the really great accesses that Fort Bay offers. To be honest, it's a ton of fun, you know? So, and honestly, I mean, I know you haven't jumped on the e-bike wagon yet, but that's the fastest growing segment in two-wheel pedaling at the moment. And that's something else that's going to be a whole nother challenge that we're going to want to communicate in the future is what we define, what e-bikes are defined, what e-bikes are allowed on certain trails, because some of these are pedal assist, some of these are
Electric motorcycles.
basically electric dirt bikes, you know? So that's a whole new challenge that we're going to have. And I think that's something else we should get ahead of. If you offer them the proper things with, again, going back to expectations, I think that'll help us a lot.
And what Brad just said, Doral, I think is something for the council to really think about when we're talking about this Woodland Hills Drive Trail.
Mhm.
You know, that would
Mhm.
definitely help our drainage problem. But my understanding was those would be paved. So are we going to allow e-bikes on those? And
We
Yeah.
do allow them, is
so
that
I
right?
said, would we?
Oh.
We have to define.
There's still some
define the
places that ban them.
parameters.
And I think the bigger question is what classifications would you allow? Because there are different classifications.
It's not just
of bikes.
e-bike
So
or pedal assistant.
Yeah.
Well, An e-bike isn't a motorized vehicle.
technically it's not, but yes, it could be.
There are
So,
those that argue it is.
so yeah, they argued is the biggest thing is a lot of the non-motorized trail sanctioned things, their funding comes to non-motorized trails, right? So they want to keep motorized vehicles off their thing. There are different classifications of e-bikes. There are some e-bikes out there to where you do not have to pedal the bike and you can twist the throttle and go.
Yeah.
And so those are where it becomes an issue. So that's honestly, I mean, Summit County, a lot of large counties right now are having issues with that. And 2 years ago, they banned everything. And now they've gone back and they've started classifying things. So what I personally use is what's a pedal assist. If I'm not pedaling, my bike does not move.
Right.
So it just gives me a little bit more oomph. So if I'm climbing the grades that we have throughout our great city, I'm not climbing those without assist, to be honest, on most of them, unless you're on at least a road bike, right? And even that's a heck of a challenge. So it's definitely something that brings a lot more people to the sport. It brings a lot more awareness to it. But yes, there are other classifications that are definitely pushing the limits of being closer to a dirt bike than they're not.
So we should make some, from what I'm hearing Brad say, and all of you say, is that when we are doing the general plan, Parks, Trails, Recreation should definitely be involved with planning or make a recommendation to planning, because they're the ones that put together the general plan for the approval of the city council. Is that correct, Dora?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's coming up probably in 2022, the general plan update.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard, right?
Yeah, we've talked to Wayne about helping him with the survey, and which leads me into the segue on the infographics for the switchback survey. I don't have that yet. I was supposed to have it, but I don't. What's being done is compiling the survey results with, I think there were 12 that were handwritten, putting all the data together and taking out the private data where people live so that all this can be shared with the city.
Anonymously.
My one thing that I took away from this survey, there's incredible people that live in the city. I mean, we heard an awful lot during the election about we're not unified, we're polarized, we're this, we're that. Most of the people that use the trail use it for hiking and mountain biking. And yet it was almost 50-50 motorized or non-motorized. And that tells me that the citizens of Woodland Hills care about what everybody else thinks and what everybody else wants to do. It isn't a me attitude. And I just thought that was phenomenal. I really did, with everything that has been going on lately.
Yeah.
I hope to have this soon so that we can discuss it and the takeaways from it all. We learned a lot. And by that I mean how we would do another survey and those types of things I would like to share with planning. The survey got out there a little bit too early.
I don't know if I ever saw a final draft before it went out.
Well, we were supposed to, but we never did. And it got out to the public and there weren't any parameters set. And by that I mean, I could take the survey on my computer. I could take it on my iPhone. I could take it on my iPad. I could take the survey 3 times. There were no URL parameters set on it. So we gleaned good information. I found out about this maybe 2 weeks before the survey was completed. We gleaned good information as far as accuracy, whether people were residents or non-residents. We don't know, but going forward, I think we now know how to conduct a survey and how to set it, and that we need to see the draft before it goes out to the public because we were supposed to test it, and that never happened.
Because as good as things are, data can be manipulated in the way the questions are.
It can, and let me add to that. I could say, just as a newer citizen, there was a lot of skepticism of why the survey even existed, and I think that caused more problems than helped. A lot of people automatically thought it was about closing down the trails and immediately pointing fingers at people's intentions. And I think that the survey just came out and said, "Hey, what do you think of the trails?" instead of, "Hey, how do you think our future use of the trails should be?" I think again, going back to expectations again, I think it was missing those expectations.
Yeah,
so it was very
We
very
never saw a
vague.
final draft.
And-
Most
That
likely.
would have been rectified if we had seen.
Correct. You didn't have the chance, it sounds like. So that definitely was an issue because, yeah, there definitely was a little bit of outrage on Facebook that jumped up and people automatically assuming what the situation was, based on hearsay and everything happening within the community. So,
Well, and I think it's a great learning curve for if we do something for Dark Sky or the citizen survey that goes out for the general plan. We learned a lot and it was a great experience. And,
I'm wondering, we have one guy.
Well, Byron,
it's Byron.
hey,
Yeah.
Byron,
Do you think he wants to say
He's
anything?
muted.
No, I don't want to say anything. I'm just here to watch what's happening. That's all. Thanks for your hard work on that.
Thanks for being here, Byron.
Sure.
now coming up December 10th, and this will be, I've got one more item after that in other business. The Celebrate Christmas. PTR has been asked to help the city with this, and I sent out to everybody kind of what we've done so far. Got great input back from Greg on their Woodland Hills outdoor Christmas event in the park that they had last year, and how the successes that they had and what could have done better.
We need some
And-
snow.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
need snow.
Order snow.
As for right now, the temporary power, Craig's working on that. The Christmas tree lighting is all set.
So question there.
Mhm.
So I assume which tree in the park are we using?
The one to the left.
By the
of
rock, by the big boulder.
Okay.
To the right of
Yeah,
that.
because Dr. Craig, he's working on the power today, but
Yep.
I don't know that they want to light it. I'm thinking we should get some volunteers.
Well, we are. I've got the lights. I'm ready to
Okay,
go.
so you just need the power.
Yep.
Okay, then that's good.
And to make sure.
And then something else FYI, when we were done Saturday night, the Halloween thing, putting the fire equipment away, we have 13 tubs this big of hot chocolate powder and cases and cases and cases of cups.
Sweet.
So
Yeah, Bob told me.
Yeah.
whatever you're doing for that, the stuff's downstairs if you want to see it too.
Yeah,
We have
we
a
have that,
budget.
coolers,
Yeah, yeah. So
The
as
serve-
far as the chocolate and the cups, you've got
Great.
everything you'll need probably for the next 5 years.
Thanks,
There's a
Jim.
lot of stuff.
We didn't want to interfere or conflict with the city's tradition of Santa on the fire truck. The city has agreed to let us use the tractor.
You do not want to mess with the fire tradition. okay?
Nope, we're not messing
Well,
with the fire tradition.
Because then you
So,
mess with Doral.
No,
not
it's not,
using-
it's not my deal. It's,
we're not using Santa.
okay,
Elf is going to come
think
down
it
from the
sounds
shelf.
cool.
And Elf will ride in the, where the-
Ambulance.
no, where the,
No, we
We're
just
having
put
a hayride.
skeletons in the ambulance.
Okay.
and we've gotten
Did you see that?
a trailer with sides on it that will put hay bales in it, and Elf and the Shelf will be on it, and we've got to come up with kind of a short route, like around the park, maybe up around Eagle's Nest, not really long, because as Greg said, last year it was cold. And we've got other activities planned for the children to do. Wendy Taylor has agreed to do the caroling at the end.
So this is all on the 10th?
Yep. We've got the activities, the tree lighting, gonna need help with decorating the pavilion. Trying to get a hold of someone that has some lumber. I'd like to make some candy canes. We have a $700 budget that's been approved by the city council. Tabitha's Way. We're working on thinking, what was it now, cans or,
Yeah, and then I also checked with another group. The YWCA is looking for donations, anything from baby things to school things, so it could, I think it was like deodorant, anything, anyway, that kind of thing. And then, yeah, Tabitha's Way. And then I haven't looked any further to see if there's something, maybe Tabitha's Way is local, but
to
yeah.
give people
open
something to bring
That's
to the
cool.
event.
That would
to
be,
share with
that
other
would be
people.
worthwhile, yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at with that. We will need help with some of the events, just to keep the kids in line.
No, why isn't it Saturday?
Because
Just,
Saturday is Santa on the fire.
oh,
And it's
Did you know
Friday,
Yeah,
because
So
that's
when do you
the
know
only
that?
day that Wendy Taylor can do.
it's
the
always
carol.
scheduled to
Okay.
Saturday,
She's
2
involved
Saturdays
with
before
Mapleton
Christmas.
Chorale Group.
That's
the
She's-
Millennial
So
Choir,
you-
it will be the 11th,
I'm
yes.
Or is
Millennial Choir. It's the one in
Oh.
Mapleton,
okay.
And
which I'm gonna
shows
try to
that
get for next
If the
year.
weather's bad on the
It's
11th,
too
we
late
have the
to
18th in our
Oh,
pocket. Yeah, that's
So
always,
that's where we are with,
yeah, put that
Is
on
there a
the-
designated
I'll
chair
figure it out.
or someone that's,
well,
So
I'm,
not Santa,
Bob
but
has
then-
kind of asked me to do that, so I'm sending out to everybody what we've done so far as a committee, what we need help with. And I've been in Denver for weeks.
and I have a lot of these things that I can contribute and love to help out. we should be around, but I can't guarantee it, but I think we'll be around then.
You had a lot of great input.
You
Your
might need
email.
do you need a ladder for putting lights on a
I talked to
tree?
Craig about that.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, there's ladders here.
Great.
Spring the
Just
fire truck.
make sure.
Yeah, if we don't
Make
have a
sure the
ladder.
ladders you grab from here are solid.
Yeah, some of them aren't as good as others, and I have a really good one personal that I'd be willing to share.
I've got a personal one, too.
Is a bonfire totally out in
Well,
the middle of the park? If there's 3 feet of snow?
you know, that's a question for Craig, but
But last year we had 3 propane powered gas.
Propane you can do, liquid
Cool.
fuel you
Yeah.
can do.
What about a 50-gallon? No,
Drum.
nope.
not
Wow.
if it's flames. Yeah. Well, if it's,
Sparklers,
no,
lighters, phones.
Lighters are liquid, I don't know, sparklers is a
We
$650 fine.
but
Yeah, we don't want to be
But-
a bad example.
we've talked over the years of having a fireworks show when there's snow, it'd be really
Wouldn't
cool
that
up
be
here.
fun?
Like maybe down in the lower of the city, but it's
John's
never come
not
to be
hearing it.
expensive.
We just,
But
as we talk fire potential, the nightmare of what could happen. is-
yeah, it's a little.
We got a lot of enjoyment out of those fire rings that we had last year.
Oh, that's cool.
The
You know,
propane-
propane.
That's
And I can get 2 more, so we can have
Oh, that'd
5
be
of those,
great.
and that would be,
That'd be
I think
great.
that would give us,
Good.
people cuddle around those and they
it's
huddle
fun.
around those
Yeah,
and talk and have a good time.
okay.
So there'll be more data going out about that this week and the help that we need and suggestions. And the last item I have really pertains to Brad, because Brad would like to be a part of our committee, and we welcome him to be part of the committee. Brad's approached Jeff and I. We met him on the trail, we met him in our front yard, and we've talked extensively. I haven't said anything to Brad like, come on, because I know the procedure that we went through to be this committee. And I've looked on the city website to see that all names have to go before the mayor and they have to be approved by the city council. But I can't find anything ordinance-wise that says this is what's supposed to happen. And Paul and Marcy's researching it. We certainly don't want to put you off. We want you on the committee.
Yeah, I like this guy.
Just want to do whatever we
right
have to
thing, do it
do,
the right
that
way.
we're not going to be,
You're doing the right thing by you being here. I mean, this
Okay.
is totally good. I mean,
That's all you have to do.
you mentioned to the city that you have a new member and his name is and you're good.
Yeah.
In my
Okay.
opinion, you're on.
And I've spoke to you guys, I spoke to Carrie as well, who's forwarded my information to Greg, so I've kind of collaborated with you guys as well, so. Yeah, I'm very, very interested in this. I plan on, you're not getting rid of me, I'm gonna be here for a while, so.
Perfect.
Might as well be on your team, so. I really want to help on this, and I hope to help on other things within the community as well, but this is where a lot of my enthusiasm lies, is where my career is made, so it makes a lot of sense to me to kind of start here with the community.
Want to be a
Thank
firefighter?
you.
So we put it in minutes.
yeah. We'll put it in the minutes that we will.
Want to be a firefighter?
I've heard, I don't know much about it, but.
Neither did
Yeah,
we.
you're young. We-
Does anybody have any other concerns or items?
Just other business, I have two items. The fencing in the park, like I said, we got the
Right?
one stretch done. We will try to do the mitigation lot during the next couple of weeks. While we still have this
No snow.
weather window, but we'll probably hold off doing the front of the park until next spring. So that's kind of the timing there. Secondly, cross-country skiing, we're planning on grooming the trails again this winter. And I put out a call for people who are familiar with cross-country skiing, who are avid cross-country skiers, to help with the grooming and the trail design. In order to do grooming and in order to design the trails, you have to be a cross-country skier and know what the what the turning radius
radius
and
is,
the
yeah.
camber and the slope is all about. So we have Aaron Lowe, and he's volunteered, and I'd like to find one or two others. Brett Winder, surprisingly, is a cross-country skier,
Brennan?
but we won't tap
Oh.
him in.
No, exactly.
Oh, he uses our trails all the time.
Oh, good.
But I'd like to find.
That's a mandatory member.
Yeah, I want to find maybe just another
He'll-
2 or
he'd do
3
it,
people.
yeah.
So in this week's, next Monday, the city newsletter is coming out, and it's going to put out a call for those that are willing to help groom and lay out the trail. And then we can get them trained by Craig and kind of authorized to use the ATV and pull the groomer. That's
Cool. I have just a thing to mention. On November 9th, I go with Jeremy Cyril to this MAG meeting where he's going to present the grant bid for the trail up Woodland Hills Drive that
Great.
you'd heard about. I sent you and
Okay.
you a copy of the proposal. Wasn't sure if any of you had seen the
I hadn't seen
details,
it.
so I've just sent it to you.
Just now?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And I'll let you know what the 9th meeting goes like. I get to listen, but
A
Jeremy,
trail? Like a.
Jeremy
a hiking
has taken the initiative.
Kind of.
And he just kind of found this grant with a group in Orem. And they're a group that deals with trails all over Utah County. And he's come up with this plan. He's designed it. The mayor signed it. It's a proposal to get a trail from the church to here first, and then from here to the park, and eventually maybe down Summit Creek Drive. That's the third phase. But this grant will provide money enough to buy even the property that we may need along Woodland Hills Drive, because there's not a lot of area there that belongs to the city in places. So that it may help purchase those little property pieces. It will put a drainage pipe under the trail, as you mentioned. It even pay for that pipe. It would surface the trail with some sort of, I don't think it's all the way to asphalt, but it's something that
Well, you can
Road
even
base
get
or
around
something.
road
and
base,
stuff,
but
road base.
a bike trail, that was the idea. So anyway, that's happening.
Huh.
And everybody
This
needs,
is a 7-figure digit or proposal?
well,
I don't think 6
we-
is gonna cover.
we might do with what funds are available to start with.
It might just get 100 yards up the hill.
Yeah,
but-
anywhere it gets is a valuable piece that we want done. But the last thing I'll mention is the city council approved the permission to burn up at the water tanks. We need to get rid of that old wood that's been pushed over down the hill. It's a mess. And
It's a
so,
mess.
we have a hard time asking residents to clean up their brush if the city has a mess like that. So we have permission. We've got the county fire, Salem fire, Elk Ridge. There'll be several fire things scheduled to help control that. County comes up and they actually circle the fire with sprinklers. And we got a lot of water there that Corbett's plumbed for us to hook the sprinklers. So this isn't scheduled yet, but the first thing we need to do is get that wood moved into piles and away from the trees where it's sitting now. If you go up to the water tanks, you'll see what I'm talking about, but
We should,
it is a lot. And
we should do that as part of the
I know.
Christmas party.
It would make a,
Go over there.
Yeah,
It
You're
was-
talking about
Sit
the
your-
bonfire thing, and there is a scheduled bonfire.
No kidding.
Yeah.
We can't bring
This-
charcoal, but
this-
we're gonna burn.
this
I
would
love
be
it.
This'll be
the
big.
best
But
hot dog
seriously,
roast we
maybe,
could ever
maybe, I'd
Well,
like to
and
see
it
that.
might,
Well, you'll see it.
it might.
I know, but
I
you
think
know-
you'll see it all the way to Lehigh.
So that is scheduled, but we don't have a firm date
But you
yet,
don't want a bunch of.
Is Craig heading that up?
onlookers.
Yes.
The volunteers?
along with county.
County fire is actually gonna be
Yeah.
in charge.
And give us citizens advance
Yeah,
warning.
really
or
will.
Talk to
get
Craig
a
today.
lot of 911 calls.
Well, they'll just have to talk to dispatch and get them off at the.
They're
gate.
using these mini X's, and actually Stout is one of the guys that's up there trying to move the wood where we need to put it.
Does it require heavy equipment?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
that
Yes.
size?
Big
Okay.
trees.
Yeah, it is. It's almost impossible to do it by hand. As we went up there and surveyed it, it's thousands of hours to cut all that up by hand. And it's a lot of work. It's in hard to get to place for a chipper. So burning's kind of the best way to go about it. But anyway, that's all I wanted to tell you about.
When you go with Jeremy, if it is going to be asphalt, perhaps think of how that is going to get plowed or shoveled. in the
Yeah, look
wintertime.
at the document I sent you. I don't
So
remember.
FYI on that, if it ends up being a hard surface, because
I don't think it
because
will.
Wayne has somebody on the planning commission that's looking at what other cities are doing as far as pond sidewalks and
Oh,
that.
cool.
So
Okay.
Because it can be a huge liability for the city. if
Yeah, loop
we
Wayne
don't
in
follow.
on that.
Okay.
In
Anybody?
case you haven't noticed that the grade for the sidewalk, if it's similar to what the street is.
It's gonna be downhill, huh? Okay.
Anybody have anything else? A motion to adjourn?
Second.
Be it.
Aye.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Do they still have frisbee golf?
Yes, there's big golf up there, and it does get used. I see people there on lot. I think it's great. I've got a 22-year-old who's got some buddies.
Where are you talking?
At the
Up on
park?
park, there's a frisbee golf.
Frisbee
It's
golf.
9 holes.
Oh, yeah.
That's become